Sure. So forced organ harvesting, we first heard from a doctor whistleblower in the Northeast China it goes all the way back to, I think, 2006. And essentially it is that, because, again, with Falun Gong specifically, you suddenly had literally hundreds of thousands of detainees who are not revealing who they are. You don't know where they are. Their family doesn't know where they are. They can do whatever they want with them. They also practice Falun Gong, which, by the way, means they don't drink, they don't smoke, they're very healthy. And so what they started to do at that time is take the prisons or the labor camps where they're being held, and they essentially turned them into organ factories. So what this would actually look like is, if you're a Falun Gong person in prison, you're normally treated awfully, you're terribly tortured, you're beaten, and yet once a month they would go in and they do the kind of tests that you need to do organ matching. And we started knowing this all over the place. And then these whistleblowers started coming forth and saying, this is really happening on a broad scale. It's being run by the Chinese military hospital system. And it's really nationwide. There's concentrations. And if you just look at the organ donation numbers, China wasn't even really a material player on the world stage in organ harvesting in organ transplantation until the Falun Gong persecution really took off. And suddenly they skyrocket all the way to number 2 in the world. So what's uncovered in the last 15 years really culminated in something called the China Tribunal that was held in London back in 2019, where for a year, Jeffrey Nice, the barrister who put Milosevic behind bars, he chaired this China Tribunal for a year in London. They had, upwards of 60 or 70 witnesses flying into London to give testimony, looking at all kinds of data, looking at all kinds of testimony, and they concluded that not only was organ harvesting happening in China, it was happening on a significant scale, and contrary to what the Chinese regime was saying at the time, it wasn't stopping. They were just doing some gymnastics, like moving it from the military hospitals to civilian hospitals, but it was still going on. And they estimated, at least in some years, upwards of 60,000 people were being killed for their organs inside China. Originally, almost all Falun Gong, then more and more Uyghurs, but there was even traces of other types of dissidents, including house Christians, being swept into this. And so it became an enormous operation. Now, to answer your question, like most persecution or any kind of campaign in China, it's dual use. One purpose is, let's get rid of this group. It is their final solution for Falun Gong. But it is also an extraordinary money-making operation. It is a multi-billion-dollar operation, and they are making a tremendous amount of money on this. And again, that's not new on forced organ harvesting. When they go after a group, it turns into a money-making operation. And what motivates the persecutors, the people who execute the campaign, is often the money that they're getting from the Chinese state. So that is what that crime is, and that is how we know it's still happening.